Hey, this is Cedric, and welcome to this edition of News You Can Use. I'm here at the Park District's Pleasant Home, a National Historic Landmark building designed in 1897 by noted Prairie School architect George W. Mayer. It's also the current home of the Oak Park River Forest Historical Society and its executive director, Frank Lippo. Later, we'll be talking to him about some of the services and opportunities available at this beautiful building. Applications for block parties are now being accepted by the Office of the Village Clerk. Some weekends fill quickly, so events should be planned early to ensure preferred dates. Block party information and an application packet are posted at www.oak-park.us under the Living in Oak Park tab. Oak Park's overall crime rate for 2011 was the lowest in the last 39 years. Police credited citizen involvement in crime-fighting initiatives as playing a critical role in helping keep crime low. The vast majority of crimes were burglaries and thefts, which represented about 88% of all crimes, with garages as burglars' most frequent targets. With the goal of reducing the chances of backups during heavy rainfalls, the village is developing an education program about the benefits of disconnecting gutter downspouts from the municipal sewer system. Officials say that when residents consider that a 1-inch rainfall on a 1,000 square foot roof can produce 600 gallons of water, they will understand how diverting stormwater from downspouts into rain barrels, grassy areas, and rain gardens can help reduce the chances of basement flooding. The Village Board has unanimously approved a mixed-use development project proposed for the high-profile corner of Lake Street and Forest Avenue in downtown Oak Park. The project will include a new 588-space parking garage, 270 apartments, and about 25,000 square feet of commercial space on 2 floors. Estimated cost of the project, including the new public garage, is about $91 million. The village investment will be $8.6 million for 300 public parking spaces, with funding to come from the Downtown Tax Increment Finance District. Oak Parkers planning to vote in the March 20th federal and state primary elections can register through Tuesday, February 21st at Village Hall. Voter registration requires 2 types of identification, at least one with the current address. A driver's license or picture ID is preferred, along with an additional item such as a lease or utility bill. The Park District of Oak Park is planning numerous activities throughout 2012 in celebration of its centennial anniversary. Upcoming events include the annual Children's Egg Hunt on Saturday, March 31st at Ridgeland Common, and an evening event for adults on Friday, April 13th, here at Pleasant Home. June may seem like a long time away, but planning is already well underway for the 39th annual A Day in Our Village Festival. This year's event is scheduled for Sunday, June 3rd. A variety of volunteers are needed to help promote and staff the event, which includes activity booths representing Oak Park civic, cultural, social service, educational, religious, and business organizations, as well as demonstrations, entertainment, and food provided by local restaurants. Enhancing its image as a leader in environmental initiatives, Oak Park soon will install solar collectors to power the Avenue parking garage and electric car chargers at 2 sites. The panel on the garage will be used to directly power garage operations, including lights and gates. Meanwhile, an agreement with iGo Car Sharing and 350 Green will create 2 solar-powered canopies to recharge electric vehicles, one at Village Hall and another in downtown Oak Park. As of January 1st, 2012, everyone in a motor vehicle, no matter the age or seating position, will now be required to wear a safety belt or risk a ticket. Regular safety belt use is the single most effective way to protect people and reduce fatalities in motor vehicle crashes. Research has shown that when lap and shoulder belts are used properly, the risk of fatal injury to front seat passenger car occupants is reduced by 45%. We're now joined by the Executive Director of the Oak Park and River Forest Historical Society, Mr. Frank Lippo. Frank, thanks for being with us today.
Well, thanks for having me.
Frank, could you tell our viewers what are some of the services provided by the Historical Society?
Yeah, we have a range of things that we do for the community. One is sort of a little bit more behind the scenes, where we gather the community's history. People give us old photographs, documents, materials. Different local institutions and organizations house their records with us, so we're the repository, kind of a gathering point for a lot of local history. So that's sort of behind the scenes. You don't think about it, but then you say, I need to find an old photograph of my house. Do we have that here? We might. We have a whole range of documents, materials, photographs that people can access. So I think some of the most common ways people use this in the community are to research their house, to research some of their family history. Perhaps there's an organization or activity that's about to celebrate a milestone, the 50th anniversary of my organization. we'll have some of that story in our collection for them to access. Also, we have programming out in the community, not just here in Pleasant Home. So we have our annual cemetery walk in Forest Home Cemetery. We have an annual house walk every spring. We have lectures, special events related to history. And also, we have here on the second floor of Pleasant Home, we have our local history museum. So we have exhibits where you can learn about the history of the Girl Scouts coming up, because it's the 100th anniversary of the Girl Scout movement, or Edgar Rice Burroughs, who wrote the Tarzan books and who lived in Oak Park.
Why do you think the Historical Society is such a valuable resource to preserve?
So often, when people first think of history, they'll think, oh, well, I didn't like history in high school. They didn't, I had to memorize too many treaty dates, right? So sometimes people think of history that way, even though there's so many great history teachers in the community, and we're lucky to have that often people have that sense that history isn't as like pertinent. It's like somebody's ancient history. But I think what's really important in Oak Park is that we have such a connection with the past because we have so many great buildings. So the people who built those buildings are part of the history. So there's sort of this historical character in the community. And I think a lot of the important things that we have done as a community, let's take like fair housing, that's not just something that happened one time in 1968 when they passed an ordinance. It's an ongoing commitment to building a certain type of community. So I think community building of all sorts requires a sense of history. Because you say, like, where have we come from? And what do we want to be 5 years from now? And there has to be that sort of historical strand, that sort of grounding. And so I think it's really important for an institution like ours that there's a place to go to kind of capture and to learn about some of those stories. Because, again, it's at that moment you want some historical fact. It's that moment when you want to find out more about a subject that all of a sudden history is very real to you. It's like, I want to find out that story. And I think often in our community, among so many people who live here, there's these moments when you want to find out about something. And so an institution like ours has to exist and should exist as a way and a place to turn to.
Besides the Historical Society, what are some of the other services and opportunities available at Pleasant Home?
Pleasant Home, as you know, is owned by the Park District of Oak Park. It was actually a private home, 2 families prior to 1939 when the Park District bought it. And the Park District bought it as much for the parkland, this beautiful Mills Park that surrounds the 5-acre park. So here in Pleasant Home, obviously it's a public park, so the grounds are used by people just enjoying it, and there's this great new park improvement plan, and by next summer there'll be some new things to see and do here in Mills Park. We are tenants of the Park District on the 2nd and 3rd floors, and each week there's tours of the entire building, starting every Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday in the afternoons. There's tours of the building. And also, the 1st floor is sort of operated by the Pleasant Home Foundation, which is our colleagues, a fellow organization, and they rent out the 1st floor for community events, for special events, weddings, functions of various sorts. And they're dedicated to the history of the building also. We are broadly, because we're the local historic society, and Pleasant Home is an important building in Oak Park, but the Pleasant Home Foundation is operating a lot of these 1st floor programs and rentals for the community.
Frank, thanks for being with us. Well, that wraps up this edition of News You Can Use. I hope you found something you could use. See you next time on VOP TV.